Hey guys, so sorry I'm uploading this review as late as it is, guys. It's been a weird day, and I didn't even know that the episode. I forgot the episode was even aired today. But just getting right into it. We got a new opening to talk about, and I'll be honest. While there was a certain nostalgia factor to the previous opening, with it kind of almost paying homage to the original anime in certain respects, this one was stylized as fuck in a lot of how its construction, and just the music itself felt like a very classic Japanese rock track. So yeah, in that sense, I actually I kind of like this opening, which is just how simplistic it is. Now, with that said, as a manga reader, I do have to say this is also an opening where spoilers are abound. Holy fuck, this opening went hard on the spoilers. Like, to any anime only, to give every anime only out there watching this video to perspective, everything you see in this opening is something that will in one way or another take place in the actual series going forward. Now, some things maybe not exactly as it played out in the opening, but in let's just say even if it doesn't, everything you've seen is still going to play out in a similar context. In fact, the thing that surprises me the most, honestly, is how the opening ended with the last group shot surrounded by the other elemental spirits before transitioning to Hao's like godly oversoul. Like, honestly, I'm a little surprised that those above everything else were things that they'd show in the opening, because you think of all things to spoil, that's the one thing that they'd want to keep the series runners would want to keep under wraps. But hey, I guess it's kind of operating on the notion that everyone has read the manga up to this point. On that note, though, I do want to talk about art and animation this week, because while not terrible or anything, there was definitely moments watching this episode that made me feel the new opening might have stretched the rest of the episode a little thin, because there were more than a couple plain as day animation errors and flaws that weren't even attempted to be covered up. Like for example, when Ryu and Faust showed up, you saw the image. They showed up completely faceless. They didn't even have like faces, and I know the whole faceless thing is something that can occur in an animation in an anime's production anyway. But when the characters are that close up, I don't think that the whole faceless thing should occur that way, honestly. And honestly, it just felt like they were taking a lot of shortcuts with this episode. Um, Now, getting into the episode itself, we get a little bit of interesting context for why the strength of Shaman's Furioku is kept secret from them the entire time during the tournament, which is to basically prevent them from becoming disillusioned about about their abilities, and just the idea of them feeling like they may not be able to defeat their opponent. But one thing I like about this, aside from providing context and something I hadn't thought about before, is that while it does show the exact reaction of disillusionment and despair from Horohoro and Chaco, it also shows the other side of that coin as well, that while knowing this fact about yourself can cause those feelings, as shown through like Horohoro's outburst at the tail end of this episode, and we just him yelling and shouting about his own weakness. We also see how those same feelings allowed him to grow and come to terms with the fact that yes, he is weak, but because of him accepting that weakness, what also grew is his desire to grow stronger beyond his limitations. Like, that desire to grow stronger boiled over to the surface, as you can clearly tell underneath Horohoro's anger. He had that desire to become stronger is even more like powerful than ever before. Um, in contrast to that, though, I want to talk about Nick Rom again, because if you pay attention to his choice of words to Yo in this episode, you can tell he's so determined to hold on to this certain image memory of his brother, so to the point where, ironically, despite saying he opposes everything the Patch stand for, he's still using those same methods as a crutch to hide his own weakness. Like, if you really look at Necrom, he's hiding behind Yo's followers because he he refuses to admit the fact that he's weak himself. Now, visually, and his own weakness for being able to be there for his brother when Ren killed him, or even accept the fact that Ren has changed. Now, visually, I think like Nick Rom's frustrations at all this could have been better like presented in the anime, because the manga had, because with the manga it had basically Nick Rom going into full on fits of tearful rage, but here like the rage was there, but he just the sadness the pent up like sadness of it all isn't exactly as well presented. Like we only saw like a single tear shed from his eye, but here there was a bit more of like there's a bit more sadness like behind the rage in the manga. So yeah, a little bit of a flop there, but it's still like the rage is still there at least. With that said, one other major thing to talk about is that Yo calls on Jean and the X-Laws to save Ren, and I do admit getting that moment between Marco, Jean, and Manta in the car, for however small it is, does do a lot more to humanize them. But Marco especially, like as far as where I'm at with the X-Laws at this point, is that I definitely like the X-Laws when they're in casual conversation moments like that, and when they do show more genuine emotion, because it does show that they aren't just heartless people. They do have a more human side to them. But every time they're in X-Law mode, that's where I just instantly check out completely. Like when Marco suddenly went into X-Law mode with this episode, and basically walking up to Yo saying he doesn't deserve to be Shaman King because he's willing to put the lives of others before before himself, and not willing to make sacrifices. I was thinking, dude, shut the fuck up. Although like you're willing to make sacrifices yourself, dumbass. So don't. You're like I get it, but it's like just no. That's at the point where I kind of draw a little bit of a line with them. Although I do also like how we are given more of a vulnerable moment with Jean herself in this episode, because yeah, again in the original anime they did make her a little too flawless. They kind of played up the fact of her being this holy being as someone who knew all, saw all, and they just kind of just really playing into her being this holy figure, but while also giving, but in here like they do show a little bit more vulnerability to her as well, and while also giving much more of a, I guess, contextual reason for why she spends so much time in the Iron Maiden coffin, which is they said themselves they have this giant like network, like information network, and they found out that like Ren, like Hao himself has pretty much Hao's process of mastering all 5 points of the star, and as well as reincarnation, because he's been able to reincarnate for so many like throughout so many decades and so many moments within history. He's been able to accumulate so much more Furioku, and which is why he at this point he's a near unstoppable being, and that's the reason as to why she is in the coffin, because she wants to put herself in that same like death-like experience in order to grow stronger herself, which yeah, okay, definitely brutal, but again, because of how we've seen how does it, there is a little bit of a precedent there's a little precedent behind it. And yeah, again, like just pretty much learning how much Furioku, like, but how has accumulated in the many long decades and centuries he's been resurrecting himself. It just pushes forward just how terrifying Hao's power is, and that again, as Yo so eloquently put it, he's going to end up as the Shaman King at one point. He will end up as the Shaman King. Like, that's kind of an inevitability at this point. It doesn't matter what Yo does, what the X-Laws does. It's kind of an inevitability. With that said, we also learned the condition the X-Laws have for Yo, which is to withdraw from the tournament. And honestly, I know the series kind of plays it up as this big deal, big sacrifice Yo is making, and to a certain degree it is. But in retrospect, I'm a little surprised that's all they had asked of him. But at the same time, like it does show that if it's one of those things where even though Yo is making a big sacrifice, it's almost also one of those things where the sacrifice, when you really get down to it, does not matter because as it's been pointed out many times before, like the how in Yo's fated battle is fated to happen. Like it is going to happen no matter what happens, no matter what he does during this shaman fight, whether he wins or loses. And like it, as this whole encounter between like Ren's group and Hao's followers showed, things events are escalating to such a degree where honestly the tournament itself doesn't really even matter anymore because again Yo and Hao are going to clash. It's going to happen, and anything the X-Laws do is just a small stopgap in the road to that eventuality. And yeah, as I said before, as I said, I think last week, it was just kind of great to see Pyron again because I think the manga and reboot gives him less screen time than the original anime, but somehow that does make me appreciate these moments we do get with him more. Of course, on that note, one other major change with this episode is in comparison to the original anime that I do think is an improvement is you actually get to see Ashcroft's like actual spirit and in general get a little more banter between him and Pyron in this episode. And it is in general we get to see more of the spirit he is underneath the armor, which yeah, I don't know if it'll ever evolve like the goth trio in this version compared to the original anime, but at the very least I can say their spirits are giving us more to connect with, because in the original story they were just big hulking monsters with no emotions or personality. And of course, again, seeing Pyron's upgrades that June made to him is simultaneously the most hilarious and yet badass part of that fight. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. I'm on Twitter, handlescontrol, and be sure to hit the notification bell, subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dark Knight of MMA, signing off. Later, everyone.